My favourite part of the video was this medic who, considering someone was about to be buried alive, he is just the most chilled person in the world.
We have a medic on standby.
He'll be fine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kiran, I'm a junior doctor and a comedian. Today we're checking out MrBeast's video where he got buried alive for 50 days. We're going to be talking about what could have gone wrong medically. As always, if you're new, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Most people who are buried alive, I say most people like it's a really common thing to happen. People who are buried alive tend to die because of hypoxia or lack of oxygen. As you breathe in, you're taking oxygen for the air and you're expelling carbon dioxide. There's a limited amount of space in the coffin that MrBeast is in, so every time he's breathing out carbon dioxide, breathing in oxygen, and the amount of oxygen in the air around him is getting less and less, and the amount of carbon dioxide is getting more. There'll be a point where there's so much carbon dioxide that you start to become sleepy, fall into a coma, and then kaput, that's the end. Obviously not the case for MrBeast because he had a ventilation system which made sure that he had a fresh supply of air. How long could someone last in a coffin without a ventilation system? Well, it depends, but it's probably just a number of hours. Even if you did manage to escape and you got out of the coffin, you're still 6 feet under dirt. And if that was wet dirt, like it was when MrBeast did it, because there was obviously a tornado that happened, then that's going to be really difficult to get up. And actually the pressure of that 6 feet of dirt is going to be compressing your body so much that your lungs aren't able to expand properly to breathe. You're going to go into respiratory failure, and if you manage to get out of the coffin, you'll probably be killed by the pressure of the dirt. Naturally, if you're alive in a coffin, you're going to be hyperventilating because you're anxious. If you're hyperventilating, you're using up more of your oxygen that you need to survive. So much like a scuba diver who's anxious going down, who uses up their oxygen quite quickly, the same principle applies in this little box that you're in. So the anxiety is making the situation even worse. So that is a reason, if any, to practice meditation, because at some point it may be able to save your life. In the video, Jimmy's friends were lovingly setting off fireworks on top of his grave. Now, although that seemed really fun, actually fireworks produce carbon monoxide, which is a poisonous gas. Carbon monoxide preferentially binds to hemoglobin rather than oxygen. So you don't have that oxygen going around the body, and that is going to cause poisoning essentially. As I said, it's different in this case because he had a ventilation system, but that in a normal person is what would have gone wrong. MrBeast was in a coffin without food or water for 2 days. Now our bodies can last several days without food or water, but probably his body's starting to go into a starvation mode. Our body needs food, which it converts into glucose, which we then use for energy. If that's not happening, our body's going to break down glycogen, which is stored in the liver, and turn that into glucose. When that's not happening, our body's going to break down amino acids found in protein, so you're going to get muscle loss and muscle wastage because your body's using that to get energy. After a few days, to preserve muscle loss, your body starts to break down fats and produce ketones. So this period of ketosis is the basis of a keto diet. But MrBeast wasn't starved for enough days to go into ketosis, but probably would have had some muscle deconditioning from being in that coffin for 2 days. Also, not moving for that period of time definitely wasn't helping. One of the risks of being immobile for such a long period of time is something called venous thromboembolism, which are blood clots. A good example of this, if someone is on a long haul flight, when they sit for long periods of time, there's a chance that they could get blood clots in the legs. This is called a deep vein thrombosis. But who cares? Why does it matter if you have a blood clot in the leg? Well, my friend, I'll tell you why. Because if you have a blood clot in the leg, it's in the venous system and it can travel along the veins and lodge itself in the lungs. And that's called a pulmonary embolus. That can cause respiratory failure and death if untreated. Now, MrBeast is a fit young man in his 20s, and I don't know his medical history other than I know he's got inflammatory bowel disease, so there is a slight risk of blood clots, but in a young person like this, it's a very small risk, especially because it's only been 2 days. In the hospital, we treat blood clots with blood thinning injections or blood thinning medication. If he got out of the box, there was a threat that he would be tased. Being tased means that there's an electrical current that's passing through your system and overwhelming your central nervous system. Essentially, the electrical impulse makes all of your muscles fire, which causes the spasming, and which is why it immobilizes people. Tasers generally are pretty safe, but there is a risk of damage to internal organs, burns, memory problems, and very rarely abnormal rhythms in the heart. So it definitely wouldn't have been the most pleasant thing to be greeted with after being released from the coffin. There's also a psychological impact of being trapped in this box alone for so long. It's kind of similar to being in prison and going into solitary confinement. It's different for MrBeast because he had a connection with the outside world. He was talking to his friends on the walkie-talkie, he was talking to the cameras, so he wasn't as isolated as someone could have been if they were trapped inside a coffin. The UN has actually declared that more than 15 days of solitary confinement is actually now defined as torture, so it's really that bad. Solitary confinement can lead to anxiety, depression, psychosis, increase in anger. It can also lead to physical symptoms as well, like headaches, dizziness, and palpitations. When he was in the box, he said he was having back pain because he was lying down for such a long period of time. So the muscles that help maintain the normal curvature of your back, they start to fatigue after a period of time. So that's probably contributing to his back pain. That's probably contributing to his back pain. He also was kind of moving around the box a little bit, and it was quite a big box. He was able to flip over to the other side. If he was fixed in that one position, there would be a risk that he might get pressure sores. A pressure sore is if you're in a place for a long time, so you're sat in a chair for a long time, or you're lying on a bed for a long time, the skin that you're connecting with the bottom can get worn down. When that gets worn down, it gets broken and it causes an ulcer. Luckily, Jimmy was moving and he didn't get one of these. This is why in hospital, when people are immobile, we turn them every so often to try and prevent them developing pressure sores. MrBeast was urinating into bottles, but didn't poop for 2 days.
Oh my God, look at all the pee bottles!
Now, this can be normal for people. It can be normal rhythm for people not to poop for 2 days. Sometimes people are more regular. One of the risks of holding it in is constipation. And when you get so constipated, that feces that wants to come out is being backed up into the colon, and it keeps coming and loading the colon in something we call fecal impaction. This is where you've got a mass of hard stool in the colon that's really difficult to come out. And this is where it gets a bit gross, so just to warn you, but sometimes if you're so constipated that you're impacted, you can actually have a symptom of diarrhea because the water is actually going around this massive hard stool and flowing out. So although someone is very constipated, they may present with diarrhea. Hopefully not the case here, and presumably when Jimmy got home, he took a great big. We've talked about all of the things that could have gone wrong with MrBeast being buried alive for 50 hours. As always, if you're new, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can join the team. Drop the video a like, and I'll see you on Sunday.